we've got a big panel, but we've also got quite a lot of time. So everybody should be able to say their piece. I'm Dylan Barry. I write for the Science and Technology section of The Economist. I'm a physicist by training, and we're not writing for The Economist. I consult for Quantumation, which is a big VC fund that funds a lot of the companies here today. I've also recently received a grant to do some research on sort of geostrategic implications for quantum, so excited to do that. We have a fantastic panel of people from industry, a mix of people who kind of come from the physics background and have gone into industry, and non-physicists who've ended up working on quantum in industry. The general conversation we're going to have today is about applications of quantum in industry. That's the title. We've got 99 problems. Hopefully quantum can solve some of them. But before we jump in, why don't we do a round of introductions? So if each of my panelists could one by one just introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about the company that you're representing, and then we can get stuck in.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Good to be here. I'm Flynn Tallora. I look after the Quantum Technologies Programme for HSBC. Our mission really is to build readiness, within the organisation to be able to apply these technologies as they mature, both from the commercial side, but also, of course, from a cyber resilient side as well. Very important for everyone, but in particular financial services. So yeah, that's what we do.
Matteo Dominicis, I'm responsible for research and development and innovation at Imperial Brands, which is a tobacco company that I joined 2 years ago to help with the transformation, which is ongoing in the industry from combustible products to better products. And I will explain later my problem.
Hi, so I'm Lee Lapworth from Rolls-Royce, and I've got interested in modelling the airflow through gas turbines. So my background in classical supercomputing, but I also lead the Rolls-Royce Quantum Initiative.
I'm Manoj Dimitakis. I'm head of computational biology at GSK. We're a pharma company uniting science, technology, and talent to develop new drugs. Just for full disclosure, I'm on garden leave. I'm about to be leaving GSK, so I'll be speaking today on individual capacity rather than representing the company.
I'm Jordi Moore, and I am a global tech lead at the IT innovation team in Nestlé, which you will be familiar with, a company with coffee, chocolates, pet food, that sort of thing. And as you can imagine, it's the largest food and beverage company in the world. So we have tons of problems of supply chain, data protection, and so on. So we are exploring if or how quantum can help.
So it's difficult to imagine a broader panel of people from across industry. So this is likely to be quite a wide-ranging and interesting chat. Shall we go again just through? Do you want to talk a little bit about, firstly, what the major issues in your industry are generally? Which of those issues you feel, to some extent, exceed the capacities of classical computing? And what problems in particular you're excited about the potential of quantum for?
Yeah, so within financial services, I think what's quite interesting is when you look at the value to be, the value at stake that's going to come from quantum technologies, it's a number around 1 to 2 trillion as kind of estimated by McKinsey by 2035. When you break down that number, a large proportion of it is attributed to financial services and insurance because the types of problems that are prevalent in the bank very closely match to the types of problem that quantum computers can solve, which of course are a specific subset of certain types of algorithm. And so, within financial services, we're broadly looking at where can we apply this technology to achieve marginal gains. So, we're looking at all of the domains across optimization, financial simulation, machine learning, and there's lots within all of those. But, to give you an example, a big one that we're looking at and we think is very material is the problem of fraud, right? And the ability to detect fraud precisely. And this is a very challenging problem for all financial services because there's a very fine balance between capturing fraud and not disrupting customer journeys so that when you try to buy something in another country, your card doesn't get declined, right? If you're just trying to buy a coffee in, a cafe in Paris. So if we can use things like quantum machine learning to actually improve the precision of our models, then actually, small percentage improvements are going to make a very, very material impact given the amount of transactions we process. So that, that's just one. The title is quite apt. There are another 99 things I could talk about, but that's one key one we are looking at, because fraud continues to be, there's increasing kind of sophistication around fraud, and it's globally applicable, right? If we solve it in one market, we can apply it to other markets. So that kind of gives you a sense of, where we're looking to apply these technologies. Just as one example. I won't go into more because you're probably going to have another 4 here. So I'll pass them to you.
Yes, in my case, the problem that is also the reason why I joined a tobacco company, not being a smoker or a nicotine user, is the problem is there are 1 billion people smoking, about 8 million people per year affected by this, so it's not to be very proud of. How do you transition these people to better products? By knowing that combustion is a major issue, because you are inhalating between 7,000 and 8,000 substances, some of them clearly problematic. So this is a big problem because you are trying to migrate people to an habit which is unhealthy, and it is embedded in the culture and the way of people of consuming the products, to something better. So you have a problem on behavioral change, you have a problem of ingredients, and to select the right ingredients. So a lot of experiments that we are doing in terms of biological testing, clinical trial, and a lot of interaction and understanding with the consumer. This type of problem is clearly done by normal prediction, which is clearly not enough, and a lot of experimentation. So it's probably common a little bit with the pharmaceutical industry, but on top you need really to shift behavior on something is embedded. So we see the opportunity to try to use quantum and better analytics, better predicting system to really support this change and to generate better data. And clearly we have urgency, because nobody will clearly challenge the fact that the smoke is not good and needs to be moved.
Okay, so we're a small team in Rolls-Royce, so that means we have to focus. So the thing we're focusing in on is modelling airflows through gas turbines. So these are thing codes that we run maybe 1 million times a year. They're crucial to the way we design our engines. We couldn't design engines without using CFD. And the fan on the front of an engine can suck the air out of a squash court in less than a second. So the challenges of the flow are really, really quite severe. When we look at quantum and look at the promise of quantum and the logarithmic scaling, it's when you get to large scale problems that the quantum overtakes. I heard somebody earlier say, the speed of a modern chip is, it's doing a billion operations a second, and we've got quantum devices that can, if they can do a few hundred, that's pretty good. So the crossover point is when you get to large problems, and there are some papers that say that crossover point is around a few 100 million sort of cells, mesh points. So we're looking at we want to do a whole engine. If we can model a whole gas turbine engine, we think that would take 1 trillion points. So that's, it's like solving a trillion equations with 1 trillion unknowns, and we want to do that once every second. So those are the sort of types of things we want to do with a quantum computer. Because at the moment we can do 1 billion classically, so we're looking for the orders of 1,000 increase in processing power to meet what we want to do with simulating engines.
Yeah, so I can identify 4 areas that are, I would say, they're key, where just very efficient computation, high-speed computation, and whatever quantum computing can bring, that also have been actually quite, let's say, transformed by artificial intelligence, which is sort of another way of bringing sort of the computation in this efficient way. So one clearly was mentioned by some of my colleagues in pharma, is the ability to disentangle biological systems. And biological systems are actually very complex, and they're very complex, and as we learn more about them, they're even more complex than we imagined. So understanding actually human biology, the complexity of the different cells and the way that different genes operate within different cells, in order to be able to say that we want to modulate that particular protein in that particular cell at that particular moment in order to have the highest possible efficacy, this is something that requires analysis of a lot of data in a very efficient way. And in many ways, biology has been actually sort of computed with approximations because we never had the capability to do that computation. I think with quantum computing, you can actually do it analytically. You don't even have to go to artificial intelligence. You can actually run it all the way through and do it analytically so that you can get that answer. So that's one clear thing, and one can elaborate more on that. The other aspect, of course, is molecule design, designing the right molecule for the right protein. There's many options, and this was elaborated by many times. The two other areas that were not mentioned much was the aspect of the processes in pharma. As many other companies, pharma companies are pretty large. They require quite a lot of coordination of different departments and different processes, and many times you just lose that information. And so we've seen with artificial intelligence, I'm sure with quantum computing, the processing of large-scale data from the different processes that go on will actually increase efficiency and probably reduce cost, which of course is great because that means that the cost of drug development is going to be reduced. The final thing I want to say, which is a bit more vague, but it's quite important, for this particular industry, but for other industries as well, data protection is a very important thing. And one of the difficult things that we have is we cannot share data around the world from different hospitals in different areas of the planet because there's always this fragmentation and barriers. So quantum computing has the potential to increase the data protection, data security that will allow the sharing in a more efficient way without putting the privacy of individual patients at risk. And that's going to completely transform our ability to detect not only new biological processes to target, but also understanding potential side effects and other types of sort of consequences, sometimes even positive, of existing drugs that we are not able to see right now.
Okay, so what can Nestlé take from quantum? No, I think that sounds very weird, but I think we know that quantum computers, when they arrive, they will have an impact in a number of dimensions. You were mentioning about, we know in quantum chemistry, they will have an impact. So that could be interesting for us for formulating some new recipes of our products, also for food supplements. In the direction of material science, we are also very interested. We have an institute for packaging to design more sustainable packaging for our products. So all these things are interesting for us, but we are aware that the quantum computer can tackle these kind of problems. It's still far in the future. So we are interested also in seeing whether quantum computing can help in the short term. So that's why we are also exploring issues about quantum machine learning and quantum optimization. We know that there are no strong mathematical theorems that support that, yes, you can solve combinatorial problems faster with quantum computers, but maybe. And so in a larger organization like Nestlé, even if you only improve 2% some metrics of your logistics and your supply chain, that would already be a massive impact in the bottom line, in our carbon footprint. So there are no guarantees, but that's what we are exploring, where we see there could be value maybe in 3-5 year time horizon.
That's a fantastic segue into my next question, which is, we increasingly see big global companies with kind of small units, some larger, but exploring kind of applications of quantum computing in their particular industries. We don't yet always have strong proofs that quantum computers will be able to sort of make a material difference. In each of your positions within a kind of company and industry, how do you balance that, and how do you think about that, and how do you approach kind of trying to solve problems in a slightly more kind of speculative, feeling out, hoping for empirical results rather than neat mathematical proofs kind of a way? Any comments on that would be interesting.
If maybe this time I start here. So I think we are very technology agnostic in this sense. So it's not that we love quantum. No, we are technology agnostic. We are exploring quantum, but we are also investing heavily in artificial intelligence. I think there is still a lot of value to be extracted from AI, and you can do this today. And also, I think that that's something to bear in mind. I think for some of the quantum companies in this meeting, right? You are competing with very advanced algorithms and solutions out there. So for us, the important is can we beat the state of the art? And this state of the art is moving, because every day AI algorithms are getting better and more powerful. So it's going to be tough for them. So we are exploring a range of technologies with an open mind.
Yeah, just to say another thing, I think there's sort of a perception out there that smaller companies might be able to take more risk or try out more technology just because they have the flexibility. But at the same time, large companies like, for example, GSK, that with 100,000 employees and so, actually have a great benefit in experimenting with new technologies. And the reason for that is that small, even incremental changes in incremental improvements, like let's say you reduce or you increase the probability of success of developing a drug by 20% or 30%. That could be a very small thing when it comes to a small biotech having a single asset, but it's actually a very big thing over the many assets of big pharma companies. And 20, 30% translates into many billions of dollars that would then not only be reinvested in R&D, but of course, reduce the individual cost of drugs. So in many ways, yeah, big companies have a harder time implementing technology because they're big, because they have processes that are more formal and more structured than a small company. But at the same time, they have a bigger benefit and they take those risks. Now, of course, they come and go, and naturally they're not, I think no company has like a favorite thing just because somebody likes it. They just see whether it makes sense or not. They try it out and then they see how it goes. The one thing I think one needs to be careful is to go from sort of using that technology with a very clear idea of how this is going to impact, let's say, the pipeline or generally the products, versus the hype that comes with it. Because what happens, for example, I see it with AI, hype is usually associated with very high expectations, and very high expectations are actually leading to quite a lot of disappointment sometimes because naturally the expectations are unrealistic. So that applies for AI now. I think it should apply for quantum computing. When it starts to be implemented, we need to be careful not to overhype it, because that's going to lead to disappointment and potentially termination of projects that would otherwise be very efficient if we were to be patient a bit more.
So to develop that point a little bit, so partnerships, and I give a big call out to Innovate UK. We've got 3 Innovate UK programs running at the moment, some in the UK and some with partners with overseas companies. So a small team can create a lot of leverage, and particularly just on your point in terms of industry has lots of interesting problems. We have lots of interesting problems. So and one of the things I would say in general, you look at the Innovate UK fundings, and it's often the startup that's brought in a sort of big company as the use case provider. We, for the first time, led an Innovate UK call. So we are the lead partner on one of our quantum calls, which is, I've not seen many other people do that. So that's part of our commitment. I mean, some of your question is, the answer is, there might not be any benefit. We might spend all this effort, and classical computing will advance, and it will the benefit will forever be just out of reach. One part of me is it's just fun to try, because some very, very interesting problems, and if we don't try, we'll never find out. So we've picked PDEs, partial differential equations, as the area that we're looking in, and it's not Shor's algorithm, it's not quantum chemistry. So there are lots of challenges in getting quantum PDE solvers to go faster than classical ones, and all of the scaling says it's going to be at this huge scale of the trillion nodes. But if I look at the quantum, again, good call out to Innovate UK and DSTL for the quantum missions in terms of error-corrected operations, that really focuses, it gives me in industry something very definite. That's a definite timescale that I can use to build support in the company. But 1 million operations, I might be able to invert a 16 by 16 matrix. And that doesn't sound like much, but that's a hell of a lot of effort. And if that proves that something's possible. So I think we're in some ways, because we've picked PDEs, we're necessarily having to play a long game, because we're not particularly interested in VQE, variational algorithms, and noisy devices.
Yeah, I mean, I agree a little bit from everything has been said. So it is still to be proven, the benefit. But at least even today, attending this day was very reassuring to learn and to recheck how much the advancement has been done in the area of hardware and how things start to be implemented in our industry. In my area, it's very visible and it's very clear the cross-functional competency and complexity is requiring more than what we are using today, at least in terms of computer science, in terms of analytics, is definitely not enough, as I was saying, to solve the problem. And this is why we are looking to collaborating with multiple entities and to create a little bit a forum of different expertise, going from physics, mathematics, biology, toxicology, and really to look to improve for better solution. And for us, clearly, healthier future for the consumer is quite important.
Yes, I would give two comments on this. First of all, everything we do in financial services is based on risk. So we kind of take a look at what is the potential impact this technology is going to have on the organization. And, we quickly came to the decision, the risk of doing nothing is far outweighs the risk of what is a relatively small investment in the scheme of how much we spend in IT, right? It's a relatively small investment. And so, it's just pragmatic, good risk management. But I would say the other thing and I would encourage if, some people here are thinking about creating quantum programs is for industry, remove quantum advantage from your vocabulary for the moment, right? Forget about trying to achieve quantum advantage. That is the ultimate aim, of course. But in the short term, there's so many other things that you can kind of focus on to build value. So, for example, a byproduct of a quantum program is the production of scientific papers and the contribution to scientific community, right? That's something we do very strongly. The development of patents. Hey, guess what? These things are signals of good innovation in an organization. Last year, HSBC bought Silicon Valley Bank. It's now HSBC Innovation Banking. And guess what? A large number of clients who are part of that and join innovation banking are quantum startups, as well as other emerging technology startups. Excellent technology, venture-backed companies, and they want to bank with organizations that have, strong practitioner programs in the technology that they're developing, so they can access the quantum team. So there are so many ways of looking at value without being completely focused on quantum advantage, which, as I said, is absolutely that's where we want to get to. But in my view, it's not a binary thing. It's like you can create so much value along the way, and I've not even touched on the impact it has on internal colleagues in the organization who are fascinated by quantum computing. They're like, what is this? Why are we doing it in a bank? And so it drives an innovation, a culture of innovation as well. So if you look at it more holistically and look at where you can apply value in different ways. And actually, quantum technologies is a journey. And yes, it may not materialize in the way we expect it to, in which case, great, we've got all this, stuff along the way, which has been tremendously beneficial. But if it does materialize in the way that we expect, it could be one of the best investments we've ever made.
Fantastic. So we've got about 10 minutes left on this panel. I think we'll try and leave sort of 5 minutes at the end to take some questions. So I think this will probably be the last question we tackle in the kind of panel form, and feel free to grab onto the bit that feels most relevant to you. I think the collection of people we have here today, I think a lot of people would be interested to hear about the experience of kind of setting up a quantum-focused group in a larger company, how you went about doing that, the kind of obstacles that you faced. Part of that is navigating the interface between people with existing quantum expertise and people without quantum expertise. And this is a fantastic panel on that front as well, because we have people who've come from sort of academic physics and people who've come from elsewhere. To what extent do we need to upskill sort of people in sort of certain capacities to better be able to understand and navigate quantum technologies as they become a bigger part of the global economy? And to what extent do we need to find ways of almost sort of downskilling quantum itself so that it's a bit more accessible to people who don't already have that expertise? And I know different people will have different bits they latch onto there. We can do kind of one more sweep across and then take some questions. Shall we start at this end? Yeah.
Start with this end. Okay, yeah. So I think, look, creating a quantum technologies program in an organization, particularly that isn't kind of a technology or research organization, it is kind of challenging because quantum is a complicated subject and there are lots of different technologies within quantum, which makes it even more complicated. But I think having a very open discussion and communication about what it is and what impact it could have is kind of the number one thing. Get the board talking about quantum and the impact of quantum technologies on the organization. And if the impact on your organization or your industry is meaningful, then there's a strong argument to make around, look, this is why we should do this. That bit's kind of easy then to do. So as I said, for us, it's kind of the risk of not doing anything is way higher than the risk of a relatively small investment. The second thing then you need to think about is what is your plan? So you need to spend a bit of time building a strategy. And that strategy should include what you've mentioned there is how do you access the talent, right? So cross-skilling quantum is often talked about. It's pretty hard to do in an organization that doesn't have, like quantum physicists, or at least haven't been practicing quantum physics for a long time. So our decision, we decided to actually hire in and bring in quantum experts across optimization, simulation, machine learning, and cyber, and we deployed them in a central team. And we just thought that was the best thing to do. You could do other routes. You could go through consultancies and work with experts in different organizations and that kind of thing, and that's also fine. But you need to figure out how do we do it, and don't rely on just doing things side of desk with some technical people in different parts, because that's not really going to work. And the third thing then is decide what your KPIs are. And I'll say it again, don't promise quantum advantage, at least not in the near term. Talk about, the impact it can have, like some of the things that I've mentioned. So for us, KPIs are contribution on papers, patents, the PR, the impact that PR has on the organization. How can we work with our innovation banking to attract new customers into that part of the business. So if you think through that holistically, then actually this becomes quite a compelling proposition that makes it hard for the board to say no. And I would say one last thing wrapped in all of that is probably the single most important thing is to make sure you have an executive sponsor, because for some reason quantum technologies is very polarizing. Either you completely believe in it or you completely don't believe in it, and it's very hard to shift people's opinion. So as people come in and out with different views, if you've got that strong anchor from the board and it's a strategic priority, then you will kind of, you'll mitigate that particular risk of different views.
So in my case, we are at the beginning of a journey, just to be very transparent, and this is also one of the reasons why I'm here. So I'm, in an humble way, I'm very open also on any suggestion from other people who have experienced it. At least the way I see it, I see it as a technology where we could use internal capability in terms of data scientists that we are currently having and collaborating externally with institute and expertise, which is already today starting to use quantum in the area of behavioral science and toxicology for formulating better products. This is a little bit the way we are setting up at the moment the experiments. I would call it an experiment in the way at least I see the first step to implement it. Then probably if things are going better, we can also look into to internalize even more. But at the beginning, I think is probably a reasonable way. But again, very open to the people here in the panel or of the audience to give suggestions.
So we've gone with a much more organic bottom-up approach. As I said, I sit in an innovation group and I run a large exascale computing program, classical exascale. So when quantum came along, we sort of got interested in 2018. It was a sort of natural fit. I'm a fellow in computational science at Rolls-Royce, so it was a natural fit to start looking at quantum. And for 2 years, we were sort of building our knowledge, talking to people. And I often say we've developed a number of partnerships all of those partnerships, we knew the partners for 2 years before we started working together. So building that sort of collaboration with people, getting to know the players in the ecosystem. And some of these things, it's a huge ecosystem, and some of it's just personal relationships. You hit it off with some people, you don't hit it off with others. And we're also looking for the best in the field, of course. So I'd say I'm not yet in the position that I would go to my board and ask for funding. We haven't got a proof of value yet. So we're actually actively working on that proof of value. So one of my previous roles was bringing in big supercomputers. No one on the board cared what computer we were going to buy. They just knew how much does it cost and how much value does it give to the business. And at some point, those are the same questions that I'll be asked about quantum computers. Nobody will care it's a quantum computer. They'll just want to know the business case.
Yeah, I won't say very much. I think it's early days, so it's difficult to go all in many cases. But I would say that, especially in large companies, that there's so many departments, the two key components is to make the company, in this case, quantum aware. So people need to understand. They need to be educated, even people that are not experts, even those people that will not be involved at all in any of these projects. And I think a team of experts in this area is actually quite important, because those are the people that will bring actually some of the granular aspects to work with all the other teams. And at the end of the day, it's the formation of multidisciplinary teams. In a large company like that, there's not sort of singular departments, but multidisciplinary teams from those departments that are actually executing the project. So, to the degree that quantum becomes more and more relevant, of course, the participation of those experts will be more and more, let's say, prominent.
Yeah, I would resonate with many things you said, of course. I would go very much for this quantum awareness of the organization. So we are working, at the end, our team, IT Innovation, is supporting IT mainly, and our customers at the end is the business. So that means the finance function, logistics, supply chain. So we are very much engaging with this function. For example, finance. Can we develop some fraud detection algorithm that could help you? Or logistics. And so we run small POCs about that to create awareness, to create appetite. How we do this? Because we have limited quantum talent in-house. So we engage with smaller startups maybe, or some bigger quantum companies, also with research organizations. So it's easier sometimes to get a PhD student or a master student. And so we see there also a lot of potential of, I would say, lateral knowledge transfer. So we have people that are expert in our business problems. So let's use that in-house talent and give them some quantum top-up. I think that is this is like a long race. There is no rush at the moment. So let's see if we can permeate a bit of quantum awareness through the organization, so that then it's easier when you create some smaller scale successes then to get buy-in from the organization of maybe investing more money and that sort of thing, and creating this ecosystem of connections with the quantum ecosystem.
So we're running a bit close to time, so we won't be able to take many questions. We don't seem to have gotten any through the app, but if anybody... Well, actually we have. So there's two we'll read here. First one, is your company focused on quantum computational supremacy, or are there other considerations that might not immediately benefit, but are more research-oriented? Does anybody have any responses to that?
No.
We did cover that a little bit in the conversation. Second question we got, can you please share how regulatory consultations and engagements, in brackets, FCA, FDA, etc., have been so far when it comes to the use of quantum in your respective businesses?
So I can take that one again. No. But we've looked at the quantum export control regulations. Obviously, we export a lot, and we do a lot of export control. One of the things I'm keen on is we have lots of export regulations that already cover things that we do with computers today. There is no reason those need to change. So I'm nervous that some of these things people start reinventing the wheel, because we have perfectly good classical procedures and policies that cover what people do with computers.
Fantastic. And that's our time. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. If anybody else has additional questions, you're welcome to approach people individually. Thank you.